Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Films and Stuff. I am Ethan. I'm here with the ever trustworthy sidekick, Pete. How are you, Pete?
I am great. How are you, Ethan?
Everything is good. It is Saturday morning-ish, and that means it is time for, cue the music, if we had it, our weekly stream or skip segment. Listeners know the rules. I know the rules. Pete, will you do us the honor by recapping in 15 seconds or less what are the rules? Stream or skip?
Absolutely. So Ethan has prepared a list of TV shows he'd like me to watch. I have done the same for him. We watch at least 2 episodes from that series, or if it's a movie, at least half the movie. And on that basis, we determine if that show or movie is worthy of being streamed or skipped.
Okay. And without further ado, I shall go first this week. Usually I defer that honor to you, but this time I know you're excited.
Very much so.
What was assigned to me. It was on the network formerly known as HBO Max, now just known as Max, The Righteous Gemstones.
I'm so
starring
excited.
John Goodman, who is the lead character, Dr. Eli Gemstone. Danny McBride, you know this guy from Eastbound and Down?
And Vice Principals, yeah.
Who's Jesse Gemstone. Adam Devine, who we know as Bumper from all the
Pitch Perfect movies. Yeah.
As Kelvin Gemstone. And then there is Edie Patterson, who I know I've seen in a lot of things. She is Judy Gemstone. So this is about an evangelical family, right?
Mm-hmm.
A family who's got like their, I guess, house of worship dating back to like what we see in kind of like the 80s. And I guess it's still popular, kind of like the televangelists.
Mm-hmm.
John Goodman is the lead preacher / reverend of this family. His wife has passed away, and basically this is about kind of the inner workings of this family. Now, I guess with that as a pretext or as a summary of the series, it seems very, very promising, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me guess, this is a comedy, right?
That's it. It is a comedy, but I think if you'd use that premise, it could also be a pretty good drama.
So maybe in the same vein as Succession, which is
Yeah.
kind of funny, but also very serious at times.
Yeah, it could definitely be a humorous drama. Having watched 3 episodes, I think they got the casting right. I think they got the idea right. I think they got the tone wrong and a little bit dramatic. It's too silly for me. It's too over the top. And I don't think that it makes it as this type of action-packed comedy drama. I think if they would have stuck to a more serious drama, like Sopranos, like 6 Feet Under, like Billions, as you mentioned, Succession, if they would have stuck to that model, that still has a lot of humorous and funny things, but a real drama, I think this would be a smash hit. But I think that it was a little bit too over the top. A few examples. Danny McBride, who I love his character, he is not a subtle actor, right?
No,
He is very over the top, and he plays very much the same character from Eastbound and Down, where he's supposed to be the son of a preacher, right? He's the oldest son. His actions don't even kind of, for me, pass like the smell test. His level of partying is too over the top. His language, the F-bombs, the overall kind of like, he doesn't even, it would be different if he had kind of like this secret life, you know, where he's supposed to be like this very religious, conservative persona, but then he has kind of like this dark side or like these urges, or he is actually less conservative in real life than his public persona. That would be okay. But he's a little bit over the top. Like when they're at their house of worship, John Goodman's kind of on stage and he's giving this big sermon about like good versus evil and trusting God. And, honestly, it's a pretty believable speech the way he's doing it. Danny McBride and Adam Devine, who are brothers and have kind of that typical sibling rivalry, are making like, I'm not even sure how I should say it without being like super vulgar. They're making gestures to each other, like sexual gestures to each other.
Sure.
And that could kind of be funny, except that it's wholly unbelievable in that context. They are on stage. There are thousands, if not tens of thousands of people focused on them. There's big screens kind of projecting them for the people that are sitting kind of like in the upper decks. It is not at all believable that these two would be on stage making such gestures to each other, right? That to me seems like it's intended to be funny, but it's so unbelievable. Like if this were like Pitch Perfect, and that's a very like silly, goofy movie, right?
Yeah.
Then you can kind of like get it. And like they're in like what is Pitch Perfect? They're like singers, right? So I mean it's not like a really serious situation, right? If two members of a band are making like gestures to each other on stage, it's just kind of like rivalry. That's kind of like go with the flow. It's a little bit more believable, right? If you're really the two brothers, while your father's delivering this sermon and all eyes are on you, there's no way you're going to be making like such overt gestures back and forth to your brother, right?
Right.
That's kind of one of the issues that I had. The daughter, Edie Patterson, I think she plays this character very well. She's kind of like the daughter, kind of kept out of the man's game, feels like, her father doesn't really like accept her. These are very, very good issues if it was a drama. And then she has a super, super weird fiance. So he's kind of like a live-in fiance. And he plays this, kind of like the Weasley spineless man to like kind of the stronger woman. He plays that role fairly well, except that it's too over the top. He's too spineless. He's too weak. He's too like just weird. And it doesn't come off. It would be a better kind of dichotomy if you see the daughter, struggling for her father's affection, and you see her insecurities, and then she kind of takes it out on her fiance, and the fiance just kind of like eats that shit. But he's way too spineless, gutless. It's just an over the top kind of overactingly pathetic type of situation. And then the main conflicts that I've saw in the first 3 episodes is basically Danny McBride, Jesse Gemstone, is being blackmailed. Let's call it a sex tape, but it's basically like a tape of him partying and doing drugs and stuff, which is very, very believable kind of like blackmail. But the way that the blackmailers are acting, they're just like buffoonish, Home Alone level criminals, hapless, trying to blackmail someone who's equally hapless. The whole thing is just over the top. So I really had, I don't want to say conflicting feelings because my recommendations can be pretty clear, but I felt very, very strongly that this is a great premise, that whoever pitched this show was onto a wonderful idea, but they should have made it much more dramatic and realistic instead of this comedic style. If we're cutting to the chase, I give this a skip.
Oh, that's a shame.
It's a real shame. With this cast, it seems almost, maybe not criminal, it seems like a misdemeanor that you've got Goodman, McBride, Devine, Edie Patterson. I didn't even mention all the other kind of like supporting actors and actresses that are really all exceptionally well cast. The idea is wonderful. Even the plot is actually pretty good, but it's the overall temptation that they get too much into being over the top, silly, goofy, funny. None of it sticks. Like there's no, the Danny McBride humor in Eastbound and Down was that he was so outrageous and over the top that you couldn't help but to find it funny that he was so outrageous, right? And it's very, very similar here, which is there's no lines that are witty funny. There's no unique situation funny. There's no humor in the rapid fire banter or the use of silly words or anything. It's just overall like humor that relies on the absurdity of the situation or their reaction to the situation that's supposed to make you laugh. And it really, really fell flat for me. And I was so disappointed because I really wanted to love this show. I watched episode 1. Okay, episode 1 is always a pilot. Takes a little bit of time to find your footing.
Yeah.
That's why we commit to watch 2. I watched the second one. We're still not getting there. Started watching the third one, and I'm like, I see where this is going. That is my long-winded but justifiable rant about the Righteous Gemstones, which is still being renewed. I have to say, it's had 3 seasons, and I guess it's been renewed for a 4th, or it's had 4 seasons.
I think it's 3 seasons that just ended. Yeah. The 3rd season literally just ended a few days ago. And I think the 4th is coming up whenever it comes up.
Yeah, I really wanted to like it. Really, I wanted to like it. After 3 episodes, I just couldn't get there. And you know the way that this goes, Pete. There is a probability season 2 is amazing. Season 3 is amazing. But you and I have railed against this for so long, which is there's so much other content out there. We don't have time to sit through 10 episodes until the show finally figures it out. And then it starts to get good in season 2. There's shows I want to watch that are already good in season 1.
Yeah.
Why am I not watching those? Why am I spending my time on something else that's not giving me any payoff? I had to say, sad as it may be, the Righteous Gemstones gave me 0 payoff. And for that reason, I must repeat, this is a skip. Sorry, HBO, or sorry, HBO Max, or sorry, Max, whatever you call yourself now. This is not happening for me.
Okay, that's fair enough. And I can understand that. And your point is super, super, super valid. Look, we make the time to watch all of these different shows every week, but your average consumer does not have the luxury of that.
No, absolutely not. If you've got one show to watch, it cannot be this show.
And more than that, if you've only got time for one episode or one show or, whatever it is per week,
I agree.
The pressure is on for that show to deliver. And as you rightly said, there are other shows that have delivered right out of the gate that would take a priority, or even if not out of the gate, at least within the first 2 or 3 episodes. And if this can't do that within the first 2 or 3 episodes, the rating for you right now is a skip. It may become, or it may have been a mooch after having watched all, 10, 12, 24 episodes there are in a season. But very few people have time for that.
I agree. So that's me. On to you, my friend. Redeem us.
So I had a movie on Netflix, Synchronic.
Yep.
It's an older movie. It came out in 2019, so probably just as, the pandemic was breaking out. And this is an interesting movie. It's a sci-fi movie starring Anthony Mackie, who most people will know as the new Captain America.
That's right.
And Jamie Dornan, who most people may probably know of him as Christian Grey from the 50 Shades of Grey franchise.
Just a quick rant on Jamie Dornan, who was like airbrushed good looking in 50 Shades of Grey, but couldn't act for a lick. He has really reinvented himself as a much scruffier, but actually quite talented actor, huh?
Yeah, and when you see that, the question becomes, how bad was the script?
For 50 Shades of Grey?
Yeah, well, exactly.
How can you mess up that movie? It's just about sex.
Yeah, well, that's the point.
How can you possibly mess that up?
It's such a, well, again, having not seen the movies nor read the books, nor do I have any interest to do so. It just seems like such a 2-dimensional series that it's not even worth the time. Back to Synchronic. It's a sci-fi movie, and the premise is that Anthony Mackie and Jamie Dornan play best friends who are EMTs who have known each other since they were in school. They are in, I want to say Atlanta, but it could be New Orleans. I think it's Atlanta. And
Okay.
the idea is that there's a new designer drug that's kind of flooding the streets.
Okay.
And this designer drug is something no one has ever seen before. At the same time, simultaneously, there's like a new rash of like very mysterious deaths and circumstances around these deaths. For example, in the opening scene, we see someone who's died, and it looks like they've been stabbed with a pirate sword, and a pirate sword from like the 19th century or the 17th century. So like the real deal pirate sword, not just like a sword that's just a normal sword that you would find today. And these are all relatively unexplainable crimes that they're witnessing. We find out, we're now getting into spoiler territory.
Yeah.
But we find out that the drugs are only affecting young people who have a special part of their brain that's not become calcified yet, and it becomes normally calcified due to age. So older people don't get affected by the drug, only younger people do. And as we learn, the drug
seems like a complicated wrinkle that's going to be relevant later.
And it becomes relevant because we learn that the drug works by affecting how people perceive time. And that apparently time is no longer linear in this movie, in the sense that all time exists at all places all the time. Yeah, it's weird. So, for example, today is also 3 centuries ago. It's also 3 centuries from now. It's a weird, complicated thing. And this drug basically affects the way you perceive time, and that allows you to travel through time. So effectively, the guy who got stabbed by a pirate sword was actually stabbed by a pirate sword 3 centuries ago, and then his body came back to the present day when the drug wore off.
This seems like a Christopher Nolan, I'm just going to kind of make up the rules as I go to give you a good plot.
100% exactly that. 20 minutes into the movie, things seem super creepy, super ominous, and it feels like a neo-noir sci-fi movie, exactly like you would expect from Christopher Nolan. You hit the nail right on the head. It's exactly that. It feels that way. The music is ominous. It's foreboding. The atmosphere is creepy. All of that. It's just fantastic for the first 25 minutes. And then it kind of falls off a cliff. So we learn that Anthony Mackie has a rare form of brain cancer, and that form of brain cancer prevents that part of his brain from calcifying as it normally would.
Oh, how convenient.
Exactly. So when he takes the drugs, he also is able to travel through time.
I'm just going to make an observation. This seems unnecessarily, first of all, probably not supported by science, but also unnecessary because you can just say it's a popular designer drug among young people. Very few old people actually use designer drugs.
The easiest thing would be like, the older you are, the less capacity your brain has to accept it, so you overdose.
The calcification seems a little bit unnecessary.
This is when the film starts to go off the rails. You effectively have a designer drug that allows you to travel through time, but only if you're young. The moment you're old, you can't travel through time anymore unless you have this brain cancer that prevents your brain from calcifying.
So are people getting stuck in the past?
So that's exactly right. So you see, you've already predicted the plot. Now, Jamie Dornan's daughter takes this
Of course.
And disappears. So everyone's like, what happened? What they don't realize is that she took this pill, she traveled through time, and then got stuck there because here's the kicker. If you take this pill, when you get transported to time depends on your physical location. So if you're sitting in your kitchen and you take the tablet, you could go back 200 years. But if you move to your living room, you could go back 500 years. And when the pill wears off.
Hold on, that makes no sense. I thought it's based on.
Exactly. This is what I mean. This is why I mean it goes off the rail. So there's like a montage sequence where you see Anthony Mackie just popping these pills. He marks it on the floor with a big X on tape and says, yeah, if you take the pill while you're standing here, you go back to the 1900s or the 1700s or whatever. Here's the kicker. When you take the pill and travel back in time, as the pill wears off, you have to be standing in the same place you arrived if you want to go back to your present date and time.
Okay.
Yeah. So
otherwise you get stuck.
Otherwise you get stuck. And that's what happened to Jamie Dornan's daughter. She took the pill. She moved around. She got stuck in the Civil War in America. And then Anthony Mackie figures that out, goes back in time to bring her back.
So no one got stuck in like the 80s?
No one got stuck in the 80s, like in 1880s maybe, or no, the 1680s. Yeah. But yeah, it got so silly and so nonsensical for a premise that started off, at least atmospherically, amazingly as a movie. I thought it was fantastic. The first 20, 25 minutes was phenomenal because even if the premise was slightly on the weaker side, it did evoke a lot of Christopher Nolan-esque feeling. And I was just like, man, like the atmosphere of this movie, it's reminding me a little bit of Memento mixed with a little bit of Inception, you know, with a little bit of Seven and like these other dark, edgy movies. It was really a quintessential neo-noir movie for the first, let's say, 30 minutes. Then it became your standard sci-fi, although I will admit this is a new take on time travel movie, and it just didn't execute well at all. How much can you blame Anthony Mackie and Jamie Dornan for this? I don't know, but the movie itself, it was a hard pass for me.
Can I guess something?
Yeah.
Before she left, the daughter was very, very bratty and rebellious.
Yeah, she was just about to move out of the house to move away into college, even though that wasn't the part of the plan. It's typical exactly trope. Right. That's what I'm saying. Is these are the little tropey things that you don't mind if the movie is really good, but the movie wasn't good enough for me to justify all those little tropes. I don't need to tell you how this movie ends. I bet you within 2 guesses, you could guess what happens in the quest of bringing Jamie Dornan's daughter back. So I think that this is a skip. If you watch only the first 30 minutes, you're going to think this could have the legs to be the best movie ever. And it very, very quickly falls apart. I give this a skip. I don't think you should bother wasting your time with it, even though, again, the first 30 minutes will make you say, what the hell happened?
It's called Synchronic. Does that have any meaning?
That's the name of the drug.
Well, Pete, this week seems to be, I mean, I'm not going to say a fail. We never have a fail because even when we have 2 skips, we help our listeners, public service. And as you said, way to dress up chicken shit as chicken soup. It is a learning experience, or lemons is lemonade. So, I mean, it's not negative, but yeah, we didn't really find anything that's compelling here. Have we been on a hot streak or not a hot streak?
I have had 3 consecutive weeks of skips.
Yikes. That's a record for you, I think.
Yeah, it's been a while for me. You have equally been a bit hit or miss. The last 3 were 2 skips and a mooch.
Yeah. I think our list is also getting a little bit lean because we put, I think, like 20 shows on for each of us and would spend like a few weeks. So I think we're probably down to the dregs. We may need to make an effort this week to kind of like update that for new.
Yeah, I added maybe 4 or 5 shows to yours. I added 1 or 2 to mine. We're okay, but yes, I think the point stands. And I think what Ethan is saying is that you should reach out to us. You should tell us, hey, guys, there's these shows that we'd like you to watch. I think it would be very good.
Can I make another observation? Hashtag Amazon Prime sucks. We're not able to watch a lot of stuff on Amazon Prime, and that potentially is having a negative impact.
Absolutely. So I took off 3 or 4 shows from your list and another 3 or 4 on my list. Almost 10 TV series and programs that we're not even bothering with.
And combine that with the artist formerly known as HBO deciding to like just totally tank it, right?
It won't come as a surprise to you. They revealed in their earnings call, they lost 2 million subscribers.
Oh, surprise. And at least one of those is someone who wants to subscribe,
Yeah.
but their bloody website won't take my credit card.
So yeah, so they lost 2 million subscribers. Look, financially speaking, the company is doing great, but at what reputational cost?
Yeah.
Because HBO's reputational hit has been incredible.
Let's make our assignments public for next week.
For next week, you're going to be on Apple TV and you're watching
Yes.
The Crowded Room.
And what do you have?
I am on Hulu and I am watching Quasi. I haven't been on Hulu for a while.
Hijack, Apple TV Plus. We finished it, right?
Indeed, we did. First of all, props to you. I thought it was only 6 episodes. You had asked me, what if this was 7 episodes? Because, 1 hour for each hour of flight time, which it exactly was 1 hour for each hour of flight time. It wasn't real time, but still very good. What did you think of the finale?
Well, I have to say, I thought that the wrinkle at the end of episode 6 was fantastic. I mean, I thought it was a pretty good ending, but I cannot dissociate the plot from the severe anger I have at the pilot. This entire, really.
That's funny. I too feel that way, but not just about the pilot, but about the civil servants.
Yeah.
And really, it was the 7th episode is what really did it for me.
Who are you angry at?
I'm most angry at not the Home Secretary, a little bit the Home Secretary.
Which is the man or the lady?
The man.
The dude.
The dude. The lady, right?
Yeah.
And the air traffic control lady, Alice.
100%.
Those
100%.
3 people should be fired and potentially criminally charged for their behavior in this.
I agree. I have to say, I really hope this isn't me being jaded, but I feel like there is intentionally a message here where it's the air traffic controller, by the way, if we just take her as an example, who's, to be honest, I have to say, seems like a very lovely lady. I don't dislike her as a person. She is late to her job, which is not just like an unimportant ho-hum job. She's an air traffic controller, right? A job that's notoriously stressful. People get tired. Being 15 minutes late, it's not like you just are a receptionist or you're working in I don't know, an insurance agency where you can stay 15 minutes later. That has potentially really serious implications, right? And so she's late. I know you're going to support me on this. Let me finish my rant because and you just keep shaking your head agreeing, okay?
I am 100% with you, but please continue.
She outwardly lies about why she is late. I mean, she can't just own up into it and be like, look, I'm a single mom. My kid's slow to get to school. I'm really sorry. Please cover for me. I'll be there in 15 minutes. She's ho-hum lying about it, not blaming her kid, but basically saying, oh, my kid's got a health issue when he doesn't. Teaching her kid it's kind of okay to lie. Misrepresenting how long it's going to take her to get to work. She comes to work. She's just in her own world. Boss tells me to do something. Go fuck yourself. I'll do it the way that I want. Someone gives her an instruction. I know better. I'll do it my way. Then she does do a pretty good job. But again, it's her selfishness. It's her not sharing information. It's her being not a team player at all. And then I feel like Apple intentionally makes her seem like kind of heroic. And then right away she's like, oh, ha, 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 I've got to leave again. Catch up with you guys later. Fix all the rest of the problem yourself. I really didn't like her as a character. And I felt like it was intentionally making the funny single mom the heroine when she's done nothing as a human being to kind of deserve that level of appreciation. Am I spot on?
100%. I mean, more than spot on.
Yeah.
Heathrow is the busiest airport in Europe, one of the busiest, if not the busiest in the world.
Yeah.
And that's just Heathrow. London, as a city, has 4 major international airports.
Yeah.
15 minutes is like tens of thousands of passengers. right?
Yeah.
And that's
It's not a
the
joke.
passengers. It's a security risk, right? One.
Yes. Yes.
Two, when you have the Air Force come to you and tell you this is now a military matter and you fob them off,
Yeah.
how did she not get arrested and thrown out the building then and there?
I
Like,
totally
how
agree.
is that possible?
I totally agree.
Like, I would get it if there were like a bunch of rent-a-cops or mall cops
Yeah.
who have no
Yeah.
authority. But you have a hijacking. You've got a runaway plane heading to the most populous city in Europe.
Yeah. How do you know better than them? I agree.
How do you not just know better, but what security clearances do you have that they don't?
Yeah.
How is that even possible? And for a series that was otherwise relatively good on the
Yeah.
details and the consequences of said details.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was so frustrating to see. It was really frustrating to see.
It came off all wrong.
She came off all wrong. The Home Secretary was like, look, I hated him up until the 7th episode, where he was just like, listen, I let the bad guys go. Let me fall on the sword. Let me make this my decision. Fine. I'm glad you think that. First of all, too little, too late. Second of all, the woman, the other counterpart, Foreign Secretary, how is this even a part of your calculus that you're worried about 200 people on an airliner versus the 6 million that live in the city?
I mean, considering that there's very recent precedent for this, right? Tragic precedent for what happened right on 9/11 on the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
If the same thing would have happened to the Shard or Parliament, all indications that was happening, how is it even possible that you're not giving them a deadline?
And sticking to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the government side. I felt let down by the bad guys' aims. I really thought there was going to be more to it beyond we're going to short the airline.
So this is like, man, remember there was a train movie like this with Denzel Washington and John Travolta? It was called something 123, Pelham 123.
Pelham 123.
Yeah. I was kind of okay with the layers of the hijack. I was really disappointed with the hijackers.
Yeah.
Especially kind of like the lead guy in the plane. He was just so wishy-washy for the last few episodes where he starts off as a badass and then he brings his brother, which is rule number 1. You probably should not do it with family. And then he's like, land, don't land. Oh, it's my brother. We got to save him. Come on, man. Like, this isn't going to work. He lost his resolve time and time again. At some point, I believe that he was actually in cahoots with Idris Elba.
Oh, man, what a twist that would have been.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking Idris Elba was intentionally the guy that they had on the inside to control the crowd and to kind of, I kind of thought he was going to be a bad guy, especially when they sent the 2 people to his house to kind of wait for his son. I was assuming that he was in on it. Then that made sense from a financial perspective because that seemed like something he would be involved in.
Look, I think this is where, for us as bankers and as guys who have been not just invested, but have worked with these banks on shorts and on calls.
Those profits would be disgorged.
100%. And not just disgorged, like that money has to go somewhere. Someone has to place that order. Yeah. All those people would have immediately been arrested then and there.
I agree.
The order would have been canceled. No stock exchange would have honored those orders. It would have been more plausible if they're like, I want this done in crypto, where there are no takebacks, where there are serious financial implications and possibilities. To do this crime on such a public forum, you're going to get your money back, right? It's one of the same things that happened in the 3rd Batman movie. In The Dark Knight Rises, Bruce Wayne loses all his money from that stock exchange thing. And I was like, at no point am I worried for Bruce Wayne's wealth because everybody in that exchange would get their money back. The government would back them up and all that money would be traceable. All these kinds of monies are traceable. They're not crypto. You can't just run away with it and go to some bank in the Cayman Islands and live out the rest of your life in peace.
There's a way that this works. I thought that the release of the prisoner, I always kind of felt like that was a red herring. Because I thought, first of all, you should never release him. And I go back to on the way the public servants acted, which I think is you're not going to release the guy. I think you should always say, we're just not going to negotiate with terrorists, foreign or domestic. You give us a demand, we're just not going to honor it. There's no, we're going to slowly honor it. We're going to kind of let the guy out and then follow him in the most inept way possible.
Oh my God, yeah.
They can't even follow him at a distance. It's pretty obvious. And they can't even get their drone to like follow the fact that they got out of the car. Like, completely pathetic performance, to be honest, from a surveillance perspective. But I thought that there would be maybe something better where you could say, look, it's a foreign airline that didn't get like landing rights, or it wanted some type of deal, or it wanted like, maybe it was Airbus trying to screw over Boeing. It could have been one of these things. That would have made a little bit more sense. Then I could probably get behind the idea of, we're really going to screw this airline.
Yeah, it's corporate espionage, right? Oh, that would have been so much better. Boeing that's going down because some fictitious third company who wants the rights for the next major order from airlines, you know?
I agree. Like, that would have made a little bit more sense. I just thought the hijackers were really, really weak. I thought the plot twist at the end of episode 6 with the lady, I thought that was a great plot twist. But again, then she lost her balls. She lost all her resolve. And then, oh, what about my daughter? Well, your daughter's going to be killed. I mean, she just felt like she kills a guy, shoots him in the head, who he deserved it. I have to say, I'm really happy he died. I mean, I don't mean that like in a arrest me way. I mean it in a, he was a pretty repugnant character who created this whole problem. But then she gets in the cockpit and then she's like, oh, I just don't know if I can go on with this, right? I'm going to rip the phone out of the phone jack, but then someone's going to hold up a message and then I'm going to reconsider. And what did she think was going to happen?
What was the end game for her? Because this is, all of this is,
thought she was going to get the text message and then she could land the plane and she's going to be hero, not hero. And then the guy's like, hey, like, I'm not going to prosecute you. Come on, you can't say that to someone. They take her off the plane. They're so nice to her. Oh, but her daughter was kidnapped. No one verified that.
Yeah.
The whole, I like the show. I thought it was a very good drama, but I feel like there were so many little mental leaps that I had to make. I was really hoping Idris Elba would be in on it.
That's such a good call. I didn't even think of that. I think you're absolutely right. I think that would have made the twist in episode 6, which was already huge. That would have been unbelievable.
Yeah, because then he could have been like, wait a second, I'm in on it, because he's like this corporate closer. He's like, I was going to do this for the acquisition, then we were going to buy this company cheap. I was going to be the man on the inside. Wait a second, who's that? That's not according to our plan. Yeah. Right? That would have been wild.
Oh, can you imagine if like you see him escape the airplane at the very end and he walks off into the sunset and he checks his bank account and the bank account's got a couple billion pounds in there. Yeah. And he's just, you know what I mean? Like, oh my God, how great was that?
He should have walked away unscathed as kind of the hero, even though he was
really
like
the
mastermind.
Yeah. A very, the usual suspects ending.
Yeah, the usual suspects. I liked the show, but there were a lot of like little mental holes. I thought the beginning was pretty cool. Like the way that they set it up, I don't want to say it's like believable, but it was at least kind of plausible that if you'd have all these people acting in cahoots, that it's possible that you could probably, you know, get this thing to happen.
Yeah, I agree. Look, the show is still a must subscribe for me.
Yeah. I agree.
But I have to say that last episode, certainly there were moments that gave me my doubts.
A show like that is so realistic. It hits so close to home that you have to make it really, really plausible. Otherwise, it loses it, you know?
You got to plug all the little holes.
Yeah.
Because if you are going through so many hoops to plug all the holes in the first 6 episodes, you can't leave any plot hole, no matter how small, in the last one.
From the public servant's perspective, I really agree that you would hope if this type of situation happens that they would act much more intelligently. I mean, you could disable a plane, I'm guessing. I have no military training or experience in this. I would assume you can like shoot a plane or somehow disable it a little bit. So it needs to kind of do a crash landing now.
Without having to explode. Yeah, exactly.
It's not, should we shoot missiles Top Gun style and incinerate it? or should we do nothing? I would expect to be like, okay, you know what? Again, this
Shoot
is not
the
the right
tail.
terminology. Shoot their flaps.
Yeah.
You must have some type of device that you can clip on to the plane. There's no other ideas. Missile, no missile. That's the binary choices that we have in this day and age. There's got to be like some type of drone they could have had. And 2 drones come, they connect to the wings, and they force it down.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, if no one's thought of this idea, I claim no intellectual property on it. Please use it. It makes so much more sense,
Yep.
right?
We can call it the Ethan maneuver from now on.
Let's call it the Ethan maneuver. But no one's like game planning this. And the only option is F-16 Tomcat style. Should we shoot it or not shoot it? That's it? There's got to be a better plan.
Can I also go one step further and just be like,
By
these
all
planes
means.
are like all connected to the web? What, you're telling me you couldn't get a drone operator to hack into it and take control? I don't understand that. Like, I don't understand why someone couldn't remote operate this plane. Again, same caveat. I am not a pilot. I don't know how these things work. But if you can fly an unmanned drone halfway across the world and blow up entire cities in the Middle East, like, I don't understand why you could not hack into an Airbus or a Boeing and bring it down safely.
If you recall the Malaysian flight 370 and how much online abuse the pilot and his family have received, right?
Right.
Even though the pilot, I think it's not resolved, but I think the pilot now has been vindicated from any wrongdoing. The pilot on this plane and his family should forever be shamed. Because all he had to do, I understand he was having an affair with a flight attendant, HR violation number 1. He didn't want her to get shot, fine, even though it's going to potentially destroy the city of London. He could have sent a message. He could have done at least something before he opened the door, right?
Yeah.
He did nothing. So the fact that, he was the casualty is, I felt, not the worst outcome.
Yeah. Anyway. So Hijack still a must subscribe, even though we have serious reservations about how it ended.
Okay, so that's everything I think we've got on Stream or Skip. I am super excited for my next series.
Yeah, look, both of us, I hope we've got good shows.
If people want to comment or give us ideas on Stream or Skip, where should they do so?
Good call. So please reach out to us if you've got shows that you want us to watch. If you've got that next must subscribe and you want your opinions vindicated, shoot us a message. You can tweet at us at F&S Podcast. You can DM us on Instagram at Films and Stuff Podcast. You can email us aloha@filmsandstuffpodcast.com. But as always, the best thing you can do is like this video, leave a comment below, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so that you know every time a new episode drops.
Pete, as always, I appreciate your emotional and entertainment support. Listeners, thanks for your ears. We will catch you next week on the Films and Stuff Podcast.
Thanks, Ethan.
Thanks, everyone. Bye now.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.